Today we're going to be making an owl cupcake. I have here naked cupcake with some jam on top. Make sure your jam doesn't have any bits in, otherwise it will make bubbles when you make your cupcake. On top of this we're going to have a blue background. I've got some turquoise icing. The most important thing when you mould your icing is that you make sure it's not too sticky and it's not too dry. The reason being, if it's too sticky, then it'll just squidge your hands. You won't be able to pick it up off your icing sugar. And if it's too dry, then it will crack and it won't form a smooth base over your cupcake. So when you've moulded it in your hands enough, put it down on top of your icing sugar, take your rolling pin, make sure your rolling pin has been dusted with enough sugar on it so that it doesn't stick to your icing, and roll it out so that it's about 3 millimeters thick. And when you've done that, you need to get a cutter that is just wider than your cupcake and cut yourself a circle. Get rid of the excess fondant, pick up your circle. If you need to, you can use a palette knife for that, and it should stick firmly on top of your cupcake like so. Then, to get rid of the icing sugar there, I'm going to dip a paintbrush into some water and just lightly go over the cupcake. Whilst you're doing this, don't get it too soggy, because again, that's going to ruin your cupcake. But you do need to make sure that you've got rid of all the excess icing sugar. If you do get it too wet, you can get a piece of kitchen towel and just go over the top of it to get rid of the excess moisture. So that's our base. On top we need our owl. So dusting a little bit more icing sugar so that nothing sticks to your baking parchment. Got the brown for the owl. Now, you could do if you wanted a different colour, but I've chosen dark brown. And then we're just going to roll out, making sure it's wide enough for our cutter. And again, about 3 millimeters, same cutter as before, just cut yourself a circle. Now, your owl needs to be smaller than the circle you cut before, so we're going to take that cutter and we're going to take the top portion out so that you've got a curve there, and then to make your owl a bit slimmer we're going to cut off the sides, and make sure when you do that that you push the cutter into each side so that you don't get any furry edges. And then for your owl's ears, you're going to pinch the ends like so, so that your owl looks more realistic. We're going to place it over the top of your cupcake like so, and then with the paintbrush again, just go over to get rid of the excess icing sugar. If you put too much water on top of your icing, then the colours will bleed together. And if that happens, you just need to get a bit of kitchen towel and take away the excess. Now that's our owl, but he needs to have some eyes, so I'm going to take some white fondant, split into 2 equal portions, and you should end up with something that's just wider than your thumb, and then you can press it onto the cupcake for your first eye, and then the other one you're just going to repeat and do the same. Once you've done that, with a tool, or maybe just your little finger if you don't have this particular tool, this is called a bone tool, you're going to make 2 little dents in the icing for where you're going to put your eyes. You're also going to put a tiny bit of water in there so that the icing you put inside sticks, doesn't fall out. Before we do that, we're going to do the nose. The nose is going to be yellow. Only take a tiny amount of fondant and then pinch it into a sort of triangular shape and place it onto your owl like so. Then we'll get the black icing. You really don't need very much for this at all, so probably the size of a large pea, and then roll it around split it equally into two, put the ball into the eye like so, and then the other one's going to do exactly the same. And then just to finish off, we're going to take what's called a bulbous comb tool. Now if you don't have one of these, you can use a cocktail stick, and we're going to use this upside down, just going to make feather marks into the icing like so. And I'm going to do it the other side. Oops. And then you should see that you have a lovely little owl.